The most dangerous form of control doesn't come from a tyrant's fist. It comes from a helpful hand. It smiles. It offers to take the burden off your shoulders. And before you know it, you've handed over the keys to your own mind. The court of a Roman emperor was a masterclass in human manipulation. While he faced threats from armies and assassins, the writings of Marcus Aurelius reveal a deep concern with a different kind of threat: the quiet control of others and the erosion of his own mind. He didn't leave behind a secret checklist, but we can forge his principles into a test. This isn't about some ancient, dusty tool. It's a layered diagnostic system, and only as you move through it do you realize what you're really looking at. This is a modern framework built from the timeless wisdom of a man who fought to keep his own mind free, to identify the invisible manipulators in your own life. The first sign: the reality distorter. This is the person who systematically denies your experiences, making you doubt your own memory and sanity. You remember a promise they made, but they'll insist, "That never happened. You're being too sensitive." This is a direct assault on what the Stoics called your ruling faculty, your ability to see reality clearly. The core principle is to distinguish truth from perception. Marcus Aurelius taught that while we don't control external events, we absolutely control our interpretation of them. The moment you start questioning your own memory because someone is telling you it's wrong, you've stumbled on the first sign of quiet control. Sign number 2 is the emotional hijacker. This person transfers their chaos directly into your nervous system. Their anxiety becomes your problem to solve. Their anger makes you feel inexplicably guilty, even when you've done nothing wrong. They use your empathy against you, making you responsible for their emotional state. But the Stoic lesson is to guard your mind from this external chaos. You are responsible for your actions, not their feelings. If you feel a sudden, unearned wave of guilt for their bad mood, that feeling isn't a sign of your failure. It's a signal you've stepped into someone else's emotional field. At this point, most people think they understand what's happening. They don't. The third sign: the worth assassin. This is the master of the backhanded compliment and the subtle microcriticism. They don't attack you directly. They just quietly dismantle your confidence over time. After you share an achievement, they might say something like, "That's great, for you." You walk away from the interaction feeling smaller, less capable, even if nothing explicitly negative was said. A core Stoic idea is that your worth is internal, not determined by the opinions of others. When you notice your self-worth consistently diminishing around a specific person, you are likely seeing a quiet assassin at work. The fourth sign is the dependency creator. This person creates a dynamic where your independence starts to feel dangerous. They might switch between intense affection and sudden coldness, making you reliant on them for emotional stability. They become the person whose approval you feel you can't function without. The Stoic virtue of independence is your shield here. True safety, for the Stoics, comes from within. If your ability to make a decision feels tied to another person's approval, you have lost a critical piece of your freedom. Sign number 5, the information gatekeeper. This person controls the flow of information to shape your reality to their liking. They filter what you hear to serve their own agenda, preventing you from seeing the full picture. At work, it's the manager who hides bad company news to avoid dissent. In a family, it's the relative who filters information to keep you from worrying, but really, to keep you from questioning their narrative. The Stoic command is to seek the whole truth. When you realize your perspective is being curated by a single source, you have to recognize you're not getting information. You're being controlled. If you're already recognizing some of these signs and want to learn how to build your own inner fortress, consider subscribing for more wisdom. Sign number 6 is the identity architect. This manipulator doesn't just want to influence you, they want to define you. They'll label you with traits that limit your behavior. You're the sensitive one, you're not a leader, or you're just too emotional. These labels are cages. They're designed to stop you from acting outside the role they've assigned to you. The Stoic path, however, is to define yourself by your own virtues. If you find that another person's definition of you is limiting your freedom to act, you are under quiet control. The 7th sign is the reciprocity trap. This is the person who creates artificial feelings of debt. They give you a gift or do you a favor, but an unspoken expectation always follows. You feel obligated to comply with a later request, not out of genuine desire, but out of a manufactured sense of debt. A Stoic acts from will, not from obligation. You have to ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to, or because I feel like I owe them? Your answer reveals the trap. Sign number 8 is the scarcity illusion. This person manufactures a false sense of urgency to bypass your critical thinking. This opportunity won't last, they'll say, or you're the only one I can trust with this. They thrive on pressure because it forces you into an impulsive decision. A Stoic mind, however, is a deliberate mind. It doesn't get rushed. It doesn't react on pressure alone. When you feel a manufactured rush to decide, that itself is a clear sign that someone is trying to hijack your decision-making process. Finally, sign number 9 is the authority mask. This is the person who uses the appearance of expertise to shut down your own judgment. They use jargon, titles, or an unshakable tone of confidence to make you feel that questioning them would be foolish. You find yourself agreeing, not because the evidence is strong, but because they just sound like they know what they're talking about. Marcus Aurelius taught himself to question all claims and to think for himself. When you defer to an authority figure without engaging your own reason, you are consenting to be controlled. The reality distorter, the emotional hijacker, the worth assassin, the dependency creator, the information gatekeeper, the identity architect, the reciprocity trap, the scarcity illusion, and the authority mask. These signs are 9 faces of quiet control. Recognizing them isn't an act of aggression, it's an act of clarity. Once you see the pattern, the control begins to dissolve. You don't have to fight the manipulator, you just have to see them. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but his writings show his greatest project was forging an unconquerable mind. By applying these signs, you aren't just detecting manipulators, you're reclaiming your own inner territory. You're learning that true freedom doesn't come from changing others, it comes from mastering yourself. Comment below with which sign resonated most with you. Protect your peace.